Okay, so in this video we're going to be going through how to solve linear equations. I'm going to do 6 different examples of generally all the types of equations that you'll get and being able to solve them, okay? So some will include brackets, I'll also do ones with x's on both sides and stuff like that, but we are just going to start with the basics first. Okay, now it's really key with these sorts of questions, the first thing you've always got to remember is that you have to show your workings out at each stage. Okay, a lot of people, for example, the first one already know what the answer is of 3 times something would make 12, but the issue is that you need to show your workings out just in case you make a silly mistake. Okay, and if you show your workings, it shows whoever's going to mark your test that you know what you're doing, not that you just guess the answer. So for the first one, this is the easiest type you'll get. So we've got 3x is equal to 12. So in basic terms, it means 3 times whatever x is has to be equal to 12. Now we just want to have x on its own. So we just want to have x equals, and that will be the idea for the rest of them as well. So we just need to consider what do we need to do to 3x to get to just 1x, which would be that we divide by 3. Okay, and you have to do the same on both sides. So on this side I've divided by 3, and on the other side I have to also then divide by 3. Okay, so 3x divided by x is just x, which is good, and then 12 divided by 3 is 4. Okay, so that is my answer, x equals 4. Okay, and you do need to show your workings out, okay? I know for these ones it's really obvious as well, which is annoying, but still it's good practice. So for the next one, we've got 4x subtract 1 is equal to 19. So again, our aim is to get just x equals like what we did for part A, but there are just more steps. So the first thing we're going to deal with is this -1. Now we want to end up just having 4x on the left hand side of the equal sign, okay? We don't want this -1, okay? I always think of it as like x is the bully and you've got to get away from him. Okay, so we're going to add 1 to both sides, okay, because -1 add 1 would give us 0, which is exactly what we wanted, but again, as I said, whatever you do to one side you have to do to the other. So 19 add 1 would give us 20. Okay, and then we're at the same stage as what we were for part A, so we just want 1x here, we don't want 4x, which means that we then need to divide both sides by 4. Okay, then we see how many 4s go into 20, which would be 5. Okay, so x equals 5. Next one, so we've got brackets this time. So for these ones, the first thing I would always say is expand the bracket, so make sure that you know how to do that first. Okay, so we're going to do 2 multiplied by x, which is 2x. And then 2 multiplied by 3, which is 6. Just make sure that you always multiply, that's really important. Okay, and again, we then just do exactly the same method as here. So we don't want the +6 with the 2x, okay, because we just want to end up with 2x on the left-hand side. So to be able to do that, we need to subtract 6 from both sides. Okay, so 15 subtract 6 would give us 9. And then we just want 1x, so then I'm going to divide by 2, which gives us that x is either 9 over 2, okay, or you can write it as a decimal, so that would be 4.5. Now, if you have ones that aren't nice, obviously dividing by 2 with anything would give you a nice decimal. If it doesn't, you are allowed to give your answers as fractions, okay, unless the question says leave your answer as a decimal place. Okay, so they're the first 3. We're now going to turn over and start the next ones. Okay, so we're getting a little bit harder now because we've got fractions as well. So for the first one, we've got 2x plus 1 all divided by 3, and we know that that's equal to 5. Now because this is being divided by 3, because I don't want the fraction, I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. Okay, and by doing that, if I multiply this fraction by 3, I'll just be left with whatever's on the top, or the numerator. So we're just going to be left with 2x plus 1. Okay, and then 5 times 3 would give us 15 on the right hand side. Okay, so for these ones you do just multiply by whatever's on the denominator on both sides. And again, we're just going back to what we did before, so we don't want the 1 here, so we're going to subtract 1 from both sides, and we're left with 2x is equal to 14, okay, because 15 subtract 1. And then we divide both sides by 2 because we just want 1x, which gives us x is equal to 7. Okay, and that's all you need to do. Now the next one is similar, but I've put it in because people try and do the same method as this, which you can do, but the problem is when people, so for example for this one we're going to have to multiply by 2, people multiply this by 2 and get x, and multiply the 6 by 2 and get 12, but they don't multiply the 4 here by 2, okay, but you do need to. Okay, so I'm actually going to do it, I'm going to show you 2 different methods of working this out. The first one is the method that I've just been speaking about. So, first thing we'll do is multiply everything by 2. And that does mean absolutely everything. So this multiplied by 2 would just give us x. Negative 4 times by 2 would be 8. And 6 multiplied by 2 would give us 12. Okay, and then to finish off, we want just x, we don't need this negative 8, so I'm going to add 8 onto both sides, which gives me x is equal to 12 add 8 is 20. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. Alternative way of doing it, which is the way that I normally do it, is I do it like how I've done C and B, is that I'm going to deal with this negative 4 first, then I'll deal with the fraction after. Okay, so I'm going to add 4 onto both sides. Okay, because then I'm just left with this fraction here, which I know isn't the best, but still it's easy to sort out after. And then we've got 6 plus 4, which is 10. Then I can then multiply both sides by 2 to just get x on its own. Okay, just so you know, that's just a half of x. Okay, so if you double half, you'd get a whole. And then 10 times 2, which is 20. So either way, you would still get the same answer. It's just what you would prefer. Okay, and the last one's the hardest one that you would get. Now, sometimes they do involve brackets. But again, as I said before, all you need to do is expand the brackets first. So the first step we need to do is work out which x is the smallest. Okay? So we've got a 2x here and we've got a 4x there. So we're always going to subtract, and sometimes, well, we'll go to that in a second. If it's a negative x, then you would add it on, okay? But these ones are both positive, so I'm going to subtract the smallest one. So 2x is smaller than 4x. So I'm going to subtract that from both sides. Now, if you notice, I'm writing the x's, what I'm taking away, underneath, okay? It's really good to try and keep it all in line with each other so that you can actually know what you're doing and not get too confused. So 2x take away 2x is nothing, okay, but we're still going to have that negative 1. Be careful not to forget about the negative sign. 4x take away 2x is just 2x, and then we still got the plus 5 from before. Okay, and then we're back to what we've been doing. So we want 2x on its own, we don't want the positive 5, so I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. Okay, again, be careful with the negatives. Negative 1 take away another 5 would be negative 6. Okay, and then we divide both sides by 2. Okay, so 1x is equal to negative 3. Okay, if you're someone that likes this, like the x being at the front, you can swap it around if you want to. Okay, as long as it does keep that negative 3 sign.